Adventure Time, The Hall of Egres, Season 7, Episode 24. So, Finn and Jake stumble upon a cave using a treasure map that they found. Finn accidentally triggers a trap, and boom, the door slams shut behind him. Now, Finn's all alone and has 3 passages to choose from. Without giving it much thought, he takes a step and whoosh! He falls down this super steep slope. Next thing he knows, he's in this sunny room with a snowman statue in the middle. Additionally, there's this massive door that looks like it belongs on a submarine, and it's labeled Hall of Egres. Anyways, after trial and error, Finn realizes that he can only enter the door with his eyes closed, and every time he opens his eyes, he will get back to the moment in time when he first entered that room. Now robbed of his sight, Finn navigates through the maze, marking paths and traps on a piece of paper. However, it's all futile as the maze keeps changing every time he opens his eyes. Some time passes and he hears Jake calling out to him. He follows his voice and pops his head out on the surface. Thinking that he's home free, he opens his eyes only to be teleported back to the moment he first started. He realizes that the challenges of the maze follow him even in the outside world. So, he repeats the same process, but this time he keeps his eyes shut and returns to Treefort. He explains the situation to everyone and decides to sleep, hoping that the problem would just, disappear. However, when he opens his eyes the next day, he finds himself right back in the dreaded dungeon. Despite Finn keeping his eyes shut for a whole month, he is back at square one every single time he opens them. The cycle continues, with BMO or Jake unintentionally forcing his eyes open, leading him back to the hall. It finally hits him that if he remains with them or anyone else, nothing will ever change. Finn slips away from the tree fort under the cover of darkness, while Jake and BMO are asleep. Adopting a disguise of animal skin and 3 blindfolds, he embarks on a solitary journey through numerous kingdoms, spending days in isolation. As the days pass, he becomes increasingly disheveled, accumulating dirt and allowing his hair to grow longer. In a desolate land, Finn stumbles upon the familiar cave and finds himself standing before the same hatch. This time, however, something seems different. Finn cautiously opens his eyes and is met with the sight of a transparent passage where the hatch once stood. With renewed hope, he steps forward, now dressed and cleaned, and observes animals gracefully walking on what appears to be clear ground above him. In the distance, he spots Jake, who has been searching for him as usual. He runs towards him with his eyes open, ultimately popping out from the same place he did the first time he escaped the cave. However, he is a completely different person than he was before, and is no longer bound by the maze. So this episode breaks away from the usual theme of the show, and it offers multiple interpretations. The concept of going back to where you started adds much more depth to this episode. Finn keeping his eyes closed throughout the journey symbolizes his avoidance of facing his problems. This is evident as Finn continuously encounters unfamiliar paths and traps within the cave, resulting in a deadlock. Instead of adapting his approach, he retreats to his familiar spot and attempts to ignore the issue, hoping that it would resolve itself. In a month-long effort, he keeps his eyes closed, symbolically turning a blind eye to the problem and naively expecting it to magically disappear. The episode's title, Hall of Egres, plays on the word egress, which means an exit or a way out. This suggests that the central focus is on finding an escape, or in this case, a resolution to the challenges within the labyrinth that is life itself. Albert Einstein once said that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. And guys, that is exactly what Finn realizes about his repeated attempts in the dungeon. He understands that if he wants to overcome his problems, he needs to change his approach. So, he embarks on a solo mission of self-growth. Leaving his clothes behind symbolizes Finn shedding his old identity to become a better person. And throughout this journey, he faces numerous challenges, but he remains determined to discover his true self. The first time Finn went into the cave, he accidentally triggered the trap and got stuck inside, so he had no other choice but to solve the maze and escape. However, the second time, he chose to go in on his own, showing that he was ready to take responsibility. He picked the middle door again, but this time he calmly walked down the slope, showing that he had grown and found the once difficult paths much easier to navigate. Additionally, when Finn accidentally hits his head on the hatch, he removes multiple blindfolds that he had previously worn. Now, these blindfolds can be interpreted as masks that he would use to conceal his true self. However, as he undergoes personal growth, he realizes that he no longer needs these masks. In front of him, he witnesses a serene and heavenly realm, symbolizing the beauty of life when one embraces their authentic self. Moreover, spotting Jake within the realm signifies that his friends would always be there, searching for him and offering support, regardless of where his journey takes him. After meeting up with Jake, he is overjoyed, as if he has found the biggest treasure, and his joy even spreads to Jake as well. Mere seconds passed for Jake while Finn was in the cave, but it was several months for our protagonist. This time complexity indicates that you and the people around you would be much happier if you just faced your demons and identified your true self.
Come along.